Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a deeply moving story that perfectly captures the concepts of karma, integrity, and resilience. We're looking at the tale of Ramdhan. He's a remarkably hardworking, yet desperately poor farmer living in the village of Dharmpur. And through Ramdhan's journey, we are going to see how facing the absolute worst life has to offer, but doing it with unwavering honesty, can completely rewrite your destiny. Let's just dive right in. So to really grasp the depths of this story, we first need to establish our emotional baseline. Picture Ramdhan speaking to his wife Sunita. After taking out a loan to plant his fields, the weather has finally cooperated. The crop is absolutely thriving. Ramdhan is just filled with the highest of hopes, right? He's making these heartfelt promises to his kids, promising them that they're finally going to go to school, that he'll buy them new clothes, dolls, new bangles for his daughter. It's this beautiful moment of pure, simple joy and relief. They really think they've finally made it. Chapter 1. The Devastating Storm. The pacing of the loss here is just staggering. Imagine this. By evening, these ominous black clouds roll in, and a massive storm hits. By nightfall, Ramdhan rushes out to his fields only to find them completely submerged. His entire crop, his entire future, just drowned. So by the very next morning, because the crop is gone, he defaults on his loan. And by the day after that, his ancestral land is aggressively seized by his creditor. In roughly 48 hours, actually scratch that, it feels more like overnight, Ramdhan goes from the brink of salvation to absolute, utter ruin. And this brings us to the antagonist of our story, the local moneylender, Seth Hariram. The sheer ruthlessness of this guy is captured in a single sentence. When Ramdhan is begging for just a little more time, explaining that the rain destroyed literally everything, Seth Hariram coldly replies, "I care about papers, not emotions." No leniency whatsoever. He evicts Ramdhan and his family on the spot, forcing them out of their home, off their land, and straight into the dark, unknown forest with absolutely nothing. Chapter 2. A Journey into Hardship. The family somehow manages to find refuge in this ruined hut belonging to an old sage at the edge of the forest, and a grueling daily grind becomes Ramdhan's new reality. Step 1, he goes deep into the forest every single day to cut wood. Step 2, he hauls it all the way to the local market to sell for pennies. Step 3, he buys the barest of basic rations. We're talking just some potatoes, onions, and a little bit of flour. He can't even afford a tiny piece of jaggery, just a little sweet treat for his kids. But step 4 is absolutely the most important, keeping the family united with hope. He is working purely on sweat and exhaustion just to keep them alive. Despite the hunger, the exhaustion, and honestly, the sheer unfairness of their situation, Ramdhan tells his wife, "We have nothing, but we are together. That is the biggest thing." And the kids, they're hungry, but they stop complaining. The family's unwavering unity in the face of this massive mountain of hardship becomes their defining trait. They don't resort to anger, they don't turn to crime, they just lean entirely into honest, backbreaking labor. Chapter 3. The Magical Golden Cave. So one evening, trying to gather just a little more wood so he can finally buy that jaggery for his kids, Ramdhan wanders way too far into the forest. He gets completely lost. But in the darkness, he sees this glowing light coming from a cave. He walks inside and discovers something completely awe-inspiring, an entire village made of gleaming gold. But here's the catch. This isn't just some hidden treasure. It's a magical realm that is totally invisible to the greedy. It only reveals itself to those who are truly hardworking and selfless. Inside this golden village, guards escort a very bewildered Ramdhan to a wise, aging king. Ramdhan just explains his story simply: the flood, the greedy moneylender, his daily struggle just to buy flour. And this brilliantly illustrates the moral core of our story. The king looks at him and says, "You people are the real kings, Ramdhan, who fight to save the family without complaint." The king recognizes that true nobility doesn't come from a crown or from wealth. It comes from honest struggle, integrity, and the sacrifices you make for the people you love. And this brings us to what I think is the most fascinating detail of the whole story: zero. That is exactly what Ramdhan asked for when he was standing in a literal village made entirely of gold. He didn't ask for a single thing. He just wanted a way home. But the king, deeply moved by this total lack of greed, gifts him a small vault of gold coins. He tells Ramdhan to go back, feed his children, buy them clothes, and start his life over. Chapter 4. Greed Meets Its Downfall. Okay, so Ramdhan returns to the real world, uses the gold to pay off his debt to Seth Hariram in full, and he reclaims his land. But his newfound stability completely drives Seth crazy with suspicion. When Ramdhan goes back to the forest just to say thank you to the king, Seth secretly tails him. And look at the stark duality in their motives here. Ramdhan's motive was pure survival and gratitude. Seth Hariram's motive, pure exploitation. I mean, he already has wealth, but he wants to steal another man's fortune and hoard this magical gold all for himself. Seth actually manages to find the cave, but the second he steps inside, the magic detects the stench of his greed. The golden light completely vanishes, replaced by pitch-black darkness. The magical guards seize him. Seth is screaming that this is unjust, but the guards deliver the ultimate consequence of his exploitation. They tell him, "Your punishment is decided by your karma." He is dragged away into the darkness, completely consumed by the very same greed that drove him to exploit poor farmers in the first place.
Chapter 5. From Farmer to King.
Now look at how Ramdhan utilizes his success. He doesn't just hoard his wealth. He clears his debts, yes, and he gets his family's ancestral farm back. But then he opens a wood and coal business. He starts providing stable jobs for the other villagers. He transitions from being at the absolute lowest, most vulnerable point in society to becoming this respected, humble business owner who actively lifts up his community. He remembers exactly what it was like to go hungry, and he uses his resources to make sure others don't have to. And then comes the incredible final twist. Sometime later, that aging magical king summons Ramdhan one last time. The king doesn't have any heirs, and recognizing Ramdhan's pure heart and community spirit, he actually names Ramdhan as his successor to the throne. Ramdhan is stunned, obviously, but he accepts the responsibility. However, as he's being crowned, he turns to his son and delivers this incredibly powerful quote: "We are not kings, but we will live as servants to the people." Even with ultimate power and wealth, he flat out refuses to let arrogance take root. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Ramdhan's journey from a devastated farmer to a king wasn't just about magic, right? It was about the compounding interest of integrity and hard work. So I want to leave you with this question to reflect on. Can we, like Ramdhan, remain servants to our core values, our humility, and our community, even when we are handed the keys to the kingdom? It's a powerful reminder that true wealth isn't about what you accumulate, but how you treat others once you have it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.